Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting about tonnage. My topic focuses on the International Convention on Tonnage Measurement of Ships 1969, or ITC 1969. Through this presentation, I will guide you on what tonnage really means, how it is calculated under international law, how Malaysia applies this convention, and how it specifically relates to our case vessel, the Bull, operated by oil tanker Sendirian Bearhood. To begin, let's remember that tonnage is not about how heavy a ship is, it's about how big it is inside. Tonnage measures internal volume, not weight. And that single distinction connects to nearly everything in shipping, from safety rules and port fees to crew size and insurance coverage. The International Maritime Organization, or IMO, is responsible for developing conventions that govern international shipping, while the International Labour Organization, ILO, focuses on setting labor standards and ensuring the rights, welfare, and working conditions of seafarers worldwide. Out of approximately 69 international maritime conventions, Malaysia has ratified 31, and one of them is the International Tonnage Convention 1969. This convention was coming into force internationally on July 18, 1982. According to Article 17 ITC 1969, the convention shall come into force 24 months after the date on which not less than 25 governments of states, the combined merchant fleets of which constitute not less than 65% of the gross tonnage of the world's merchant shipping, have signed without reservation as to acceptance or deposited instruments of acceptance or accession in accordance with Article 16. The organization shall inform all governments which have signed or acceded to the present convention of the date on which it comes into force. Malaysia ratified the convention on April 24, 1984 through acceptance and entered into force on July 24, 1984. It became part of our national legal framework through two key laws, which are the Merchant Shipping Ordinance 1952 and the Merchant Shipping Tonnage Regulations 1985 PU A 83/1985. Before ITC 1969, the world had a problem. Different countries used different tonnage systems, such as gross register tonnage, GRT, and net register tonnage, NRT. These old systems were inconsistent and caused unfair treatment in port dues, inspection requirements, and international regulations. To fix this, ITC 1969 introduced a single, unified system for measuring ships based on internal volume. This meant that a ship size would be recognized equally whether it was registered in Japan, Norway, or Malaysia. The convention had three main purposes, including to establish a uniform method for tonnage measurement, to define standardized formulas for gross tonnage, GT, and net tonnage, NT, and to ensure fairness and transparency in how ships are charged, certified, and regulated across the world. Scope and application under Article 4.1 of ITC 1969. The convention does not apply to ships of war and ships less than 24 meters in length. This is an important threshold that separates smaller domestic craft from larger international trading vessels. For ships that are 24 meters and above, ITC 1969 applies in full, meaning these ships must be measured, certified, and documented according to the convention's formula. Malaysia follows this same rule. Under the Merchant Shipping Tonnage Regulations 1985, any ship of 24 meters registered length or more must have an International Tonnage Certificate, 1969, issued in accordance with ITC 1969, while for ships below 24 meters registered length, such as small domestic vessels, are measured under Malaysia's own tonnage system and issued a Malaysia Tonnage Certificate. The International Tonnage Certificate, ITC, uses rounded figures for gross and net tonnage, simplifying measurements for international recognition, whereas the Malaysia Tonnage Certificate, MTC, often includes precise decimals, such as 112.01 GRT, reflecting the country's own tonnage calculation system for smaller domestic vessels. Before the publication of the Merchant Shipping Tonnage Regulations 1985, port state control and flag state control could only detain ships. However, with the incorporation of the International Tonnage Certificate, ITC, into this regulation, they are now empowered to take legal action in court. According to Malaysian Shipping Notice, which is MSN 25/2008, Malaysian flagged ships are required to carry on board all statutory certificates, including the tonnage certificate, as well as the latest legislations, notices, and publications relevant to maritime safety and management. While under Section 81 of the Merchant Shipping Ordinance 1952, ship owners must ensure that these legislations and publications are readily accessible on board. Failure to comply constitutes an offense and, upon conviction, can result in a fine of up to 25,000 ringgit per ship. Thus, MSN 25/2008 together with Section 81 of the MSO 1952 makes it mandatory for Malaysian flagged vessels to maintain proper statutory certificates and publications. ensuring both compliance and safety standards. Let's now talk about how tonnage is actually calculated. Under Article 2.4 of ITC 1969, gross tonnage, GT, means the measure of the overall size of a ship, determined by the internal volume of all enclosed spaces. It represents the total enclosed volume of the ship, from keel to funnel, including crew spaces, machinery rooms, and cargo holds. The formula used is GT equals K times V. In simple terms, the larger the ship's enclosed volume, the higher the gross tonnage. GT is dimensionless. It's not measured in tons of weight, but in a numerical value that reflects internal capacity. Gross tonnage is extremely important because many international regulations are based on it. For example, ships above 400 GT fall under MARPOL pollution prevention rules, and ships above 500 GT must comply with SALAS safety management and ISM code requirements. Under Article 2.5 of ITC 1969, the net tonnage, NT, measures the useful capacity of a ship. It focuses on the spaces that generate revenue, which are cargo holds and passenger areas. NT is calculated using a more complex formula that accounts for the ship's volume, draft, depth, and passengers, as formula showed below. NT equals K2 times VC times 4D/3D, superscript 2 plus K3 times N plus N2/10. This formula ensures that ships with greater earning potential pay fair dues and fees compared to smaller vessels. NT is widely used in port dues, canal tolls, and local tariffs. For example, Malaysia's Federation Light Dues Act 1953, Act 250, charges 0.20 sen per net ton, NT, for navigation dues. Once GT and NT are calculated, the ship's flag state issues an International Tonnage Certificate, 1969, as the official proof of compliance with the convention. This certificate includes information such as the ship's name and IMO number, type of ship and flag, gross and net tonnage, the date of measurement, and a reference to the convention. Carrying this certificate on board is mandatory. When a ship enters an international port or canal, such as at Singapore, Rotterdam, or Port Klang, Port State Control Officers will review the ITC 1969 certificate as part of their standard document inspection. If the certificate is missing or invalid, the vessel can face detention, fines, or refusal of entry. However, it is important to note that some canals such as the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal have their own separate tonnage systems. The Suez Canal Tonnage Certificate, SCTC, and the Panama Canal Tonnage Certificate, PCTC. These systems apply specific local formulas for calculating transit tolls. Therefore, while a valid ITC 1969 certificate is recognized worldwide for legal and safety compliance, a ship must still hold additional tonnage certificates issued by the Suez or Panama Canal authorities if it transits those waterways. Let's now apply everything we've learned to the UUM Bowl, owned by UUM Oil Tanker SDN, BHD. The ship's particulars are as follows. Since UUM Bowl was built after the ITC 1969 entered into force and far exceeds the 24-meter, it is defined as a new ship under Article 2 of the Convention. Therefore, the ship falls fully within the scope of the ITC 1969 and must be measured, certified, and documented in accordance with the Convention's requirements for the issuance of an International Tonnage Certificate, 1969. The vessel's GT of 28,927 and corresponding NT shall be recorded on its International Tonnage Certificate. These figures directly determine its compliance obligations, from SALAS and MARPOL certificates to manning scales and port dues. In other words, every operational, commercial, and regulatory aspect of UUM Bowl depends on the accuracy of these tonnage numbers. Tonnage plays a vital role in almost every aspect of a ship's operation, commercially, legally, and technically. From a commercial perspective, tonnage determines how much a ship will pay in port dues, canal tolls, and certain taxes. Many ports around the world calculate harbor fees based on a vessel's gross tonnage, as it reflects the ship's overall size and the amount of space it occupies within port facilities. From a regulatory standpoint, tonnage is equally significant because it dictates which international conventions and safety standards apply to a vessel. For instance, conventions such as SALAS, MARPOL, and MLC often specify that certain regulations apply only to ships exceeding particular gross tonnage thresholds, commonly 100 GT, 150 GT, 400 GT, or 500 GT. On the operational side, tonnage influences how ships are designed, managed, and maintained. Knowing a vessel's gross and net tonnage helps owners and operators plan voyages, predict fuel consumption, calculate load capacity, and budget for port operations. In short, accurate tonnage measurement ensures that ships operate safely, economically, and in full compliance with international maritime law. making it one of the most essential concepts in the entire shipping industry. In conclusion, ITC 1969 has protected the safety of maritime operations, promotes environmental accountability, and supports the fair calculation of port and canal dues worldwide. By mastering this concept, we not only comply with global maritime standards, but also contribute to a safer, more efficient, and more sustainable shipping industry for the future.
Thank you for watching.